I have half hour. I'd like to talk about one of the Buddhist texts that I like. One of the texts I like. I don't know whether you heard about it before. Okay. It's called the Kevatta Sutta. Okay. Anyway, the sutta actually is begin with a story. Not a story. Actually, the sutta begin with it must be the Buddha being, and I mean the Buddha. Basically, the Buddhism must be in India for some times already. And then that time the Buddha went to a place. At that time, that town had one of the kind of the most rich young men, or one of the like charismatic kind of men, rich, and he would like to invite the Buddha to go to his house, for like basically for the, to offering the food for the Buddha. So his purpose is asking the Buddha to ask the Buddha to tell his disciples to show the supernatural power. Okay. And then the Buddha will refuse about that. So, and he explained to the Buddha also why. He said, now in our town here, people are rich and people are very educated. Basically mean people are well accepted also. So if you tell your disciples, that means your following monks or nuns, that to show the supernatural power, then we will have much more the Buddhist generation. In other words, they would have much more people follow the Buddhist teachings. However, and in for the second time, the Buddha declined that. He said, "No, I never asked, my disciples to do so." And then, traditionally in India, usually if you want to make sure whether he really mean it or not, you have to ask 3 times. Okay. Don't joke. It's true. When you go to any other Buddhist country, even sometimes I did so. When the people first ask you something, you will say no. It not mean no. Sometimes you are not sure. The second time, no, maybe you are quite sure, but you are still not 100% sure. But if the third time, if I say no, it means it's sure already. There's no. Okay, and that's how we learn also. So, anyway. What happened is that since the third time he said no, and then this lay person called Kevatta, who was very surprised. That's why he asked the question. He said, "Can you explain to me why you refused to ask the following disciples to perform supernatural powers?" And then, of course, he said that logical way. Okay, basically he said. The Buddha said, if someone say, I know a following monk who have a supernatural power, such and such and such. He's such a powerful one. And the other persons, when he hear about that, he might respond to that person. Oh, what is the difference between all this monk? So he's just like a magician. You look at that, in India there are lots of magicians, just like nowadays also. You have a David Copperfield, right, for example. And the other, I cannot remember the name now. So, and then what is the difference between them, the monk, and then the logician, and then the magicians? So, and then they are all just perform the magic, it's not true. So, and that will devalue the Buddhist teachings, because what is the main thing about Buddhist teaching? I'm going to talk later. So, the second, what if then someone that tell other person, tell their friends, saying that, my fellow monks who have supernatural power, very powerful, and so and such and such and such. And they will say, "Well, really true." And they will follow them and they consult to these monks or nuns. But what good for them? They will do nothing good for this follower. Because why? Because they are follow this. They are not really learning the true value of what a Buddhist teaching is about. They are only just want to seek after these supernatural powers. But, okay. So anyway, the story comes to this point, and then they also asked, and this Kevatta also asked, as the most charismatic young and rich man, like nowadays, imagine that in New York here, one guy is very rich, very handsome, still single, and very knowledge, and of course everybody like him, Anyway, and this guy at the end, he will ask, so then what do you suggest the monk do then? He say, actually, I suggest my monk to tell the lay people, oh, I'm still practicing my Dharma, and I'm still not good at this, I'm still not good at that. So, on the contrary, I don't ask the monk to say, I'm good at what, but I rather tell the lay people what I'm not good at, okay? Anyway, this you don't find in the Pali version, this word, like what not good at, but definitely in Chinese version, the same text that they have said that very clearly. Okay, now we are not discussing about the version. I like to bring this story to say that very important message in the Buddhism is that because in most of the Buddhist texts, lots of Buddhist texts, even including one text I was about to say actually, it's about called the Samanyabala Sutta. It's about the text mean the fruit of the saint, or the fruit of being a monk, of the fruit of being a recluse monks. Actually, the text is trying to say that because the text is going to convince the king, because the king asked him, the king, Ajatasattu king asked the Buddha, what is actually the good thing to become a recluse monk? But I think the Buddha is very, very smart in this way. And the first thing, he didn't reply what is meant by the recluse monk is about. But he say, due to the social context, from the social context in those days, he asked the king, if you have a slave, in India, they have this, like, they were born as kind of like a slave, or you could say, not a slave, what's a better word for that? Anyway, the people had to serve as a servant. And one day you want to free this servant, say, okay, servant, you have no more have any bounding with me. You could, to be free, do whatever you like to do. And the servant was very delighted. And then he became a monk. He joined the Sangha and become the recluse monk. And then as you are the king, one day you met this monk. Will you worship this monk? Or will you say, oh, you were the slave under me? But of course, that given the Indian context in those days, and then because in India, even though you're a monk, when you see a recluse monk, you have to respect them, right? Even though you're a king. So then say, no, of course, I would not, say that, oh, you were the servant, you were my servant, but now you're the monk now. So in other words, he has to respect what he called the previous as a servant, now as a monk, he had to pay the respect to that monk. So and then the Buddha say, look, this is what is one of the benefit for being a recluse monk now. Okay, from there, of course, then the king, Ajatasattu it gained the Ajatasattu king's attention already. Now that is just about the social context. The social context, he has to do that because in Indian culture, the recluse monk is higher than the king in some way, okay? Even though the king is very powerful, true, but for, they have this kind of social context there. Then the second is that then he will ask, then the Buddha, after that the Buddha realized that the king Ajatasattu, the king, might able to understand more. So that's why then he spent some time to explain what the monk do. Basically they must have a good virtue, in other words, a good morality. And then also because due to the practices, they will have something power, experienced through the meditation, some experience beyond normal people experienced. And we must also understand that, and those experienced, given the society in India, admire, That means, if the people can do meditation for a long time, and if they can really uplift their mind, they are really, really worthy, with a highly respect persons. And that was given in 2,600 years ago, at least 2,500 years ago, until actually even now. So, and then the Buddha explained all these things, and also explained that through this kind of meditation power, they might be gaining, certain type of supernatural power, that they have a divine eyes, They can look at the thing. They can see the thing so clear that almost like they're looking at the mirror to see whether they have some spot on their face, And then they also develop divine ears. They can hear the thing that's so clear that they almost like they are in any places listen to somebody conversation when they were present in any among the conversation, and so forth. And then also to see the past life or other people or even the past life of themselves and so forth. Anyway, that certainly make the king more understood that, okay, that is why, what is the benefit from being a recluse monk, okay? And ultimately then the monk, when they practice, and they can be out of this, what we call the reincarnation again, so they will be cut off the reincarnation, and all these things. Now, anyway, that came from another Buddhist text, but I want to say this here, is from a Buddhist perspective, what is really the essence of doing practices? And what is really the essence of being a recluse monk? I mean, it definitely, in old day, being a recluse monk is the something, is ideal, for people who really want to serious to the practices. So what is really the main essence of that? It's very clear from a first text I mentioned that the Buddha never wanted any people to show their supernatural power, because it's very clear that showing a supernatural power to anybody, you might discuss something, but you don't show to anybody, it only will never give a good result for the teachings. Either the people worship you because your supernatural power. They don't really learn what is the main essence of the teachings. Get it now? And the second, either the people will slander you because they say you're the liar, you're the magician, you just want to cheat, right? So it doesn't give. And on the contrary, and the Buddha say that, any practitioner, if they want to say something, they only want to just tell people that how insufficient they are still doing, how much they need to do the practices. How much they still have to work out on their path, And that actually is one of the very different idea about religion. Because in the Buddhist religion, it's unlike the other religion. But I know that, I don't mean all religion, but I mean there are some religions like to promote, this is a place that now you will get, supernatural power. You will be, somebody who really can help you because they have a power, right? Now, I'm not here to deny these things might exist in Buddhism, but I'm here to say, according to what I understand, or at least to the Buddha's understand, is the main thing actually is always how, when we do practices, how one can be better in their heart, in their mind, right? And then up to the point that it can be so good, they have to learn how to be humble, how to be not boasting themselves, but then rather actually try to be humble, to tell that, no, I'm still a lot to do. And also how to be, learning how to be value, the most important is about the purification of the mind. In other words, through the purification of mind, and then someone can be purified by themselves. Okay. And then they can be cut off the defilements. Now, for the purification, I don't know whether this cat is humble or not humble, but but looks like he's very proud and he just like to walk around. Okay, we must have also learned how to be a moral, a virtual person. From a virtual person, we need to develop few things. One thing that a certain set of rules you must try to follow. I always believe that to follow the set of rules, whatever you follow, the main thing is, normally the good set of rules is helping you not prevent yourself to do bad things. But not only that, but it's also help you to be more patient and more disciplined. Whatever you want to do, the discipline itself is very important. Be a disciplinary person is very important. So, and the second is that somebody also must learn how to guard their senses. So that means see the thing, you have to use your eye to see the thing, you have to use your ear to hear the thing, you have to use your nose to smell the thing, you use your tongue to taste the thing, and you use your body to feel comfortable thing, right? Feel the wind, feel the sitting, that's what we call the tactile sensation. You feel the thing. And then you also use your mind, to think something, right? But you need to learn how to guard those 6 senses. You know what I mean by that? For example, when you see something that doesn't give you good, you should know how to stop, not to see it, But depends on how quickly you can stop, but still you have to learn to stop it. The same thing, when you hear something is not pleased to your ears and it's not good for your mind, you have to learn how to stop to hear it also. The same thing for the nose, the tongue, and even the body. So, in other words, you always have to learn how to be moderate, not to be obsessed with, your eyes seeing the thing, your ears, your tongue tasting the thing, and the ears listening to the thing, and so forth. The same thing to the mind. Not to be obsessed with certain thought in your mind. Some people like to think something. For example, some people like to think, oh, that person is a bad person. But some people could be obsessed on thinking that. Or some people like to think, oh, that person is the most beautiful person. Or she is the most beautiful one. Or he is the most what. So, and then you need to learn not to be obsessed. To think and not to let, you have to learn how to stop your mind to, being obsessed by a certain thought. Those is actually, according to Buddhist teaching, are the highest way to train a morality. That you learn how to be guard your senses. Okay, and then you have to learn how to have a time. Like you wake up in what kind of time, sleep in what kind of time, and when you go to sleep, you always sleep mindfully, with mindfulness. And when you wake up, you have to wake up with mindfulness. I mean, there's lots of teachings there. I don't have the time to explain, but generally, those people who practice samadhi, according to the tradition, if you have a samadhi, you have the light. Whenever you close your eyes, if you want the light appear, it always appear. And then you need to learn. Before you go to bed, you must make sure the light is there. And then before you go to sleep. Okay, those are is a basic requirement for people who meditate. That's the reason why some people ask me a question also, or people might be asking questions, say, I'm doing meditation quite well, but I don't know why I cannot maintain it very well. Why they cannot maintain it very well? Because they don't know, actually during their daily life, they at least try to do something. Even though they forget to do that one day, but the other day or next day they have to think about that. It's very easy to explain this, just like you learn something, If you don't want to forget something, unless it really becomes part of you, before it becomes part of you, you have to always keep that in your mind, right? Even though you were busy, but you still at least have to spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes to keep that in your mind, right? So that then it will become part of you. So same thing, that the light, the perceiving of light, before you go to bed, you have to make sure the light still appear, and then you fall asleep. So that is one. Those are actually, it's to do with the disciplinary life. That when you really have the serious practice, you must have this kind of disciplinary. Even though you might be not like diligent as other people, but your mind is always diligent. You get what I mean? You might not sitting meditate, but you always know that something maybe not there, you want to get it back, right? That the light is one of the things. Now, when we have those things also, then we need to choose the place that good for your meditation, because you want to further practice. So that's why there are lots of teachings about that too, about what kind of place is good for your practices. Of course, that are places that you have a wise person to you. Very important that places have a good teachers are there if you are lucky enough. Because whenever you question, you can ask. And the second, that you have good friends. And this friend is not going to spoil you, but the friends will encourage you. Because these two things is very important. Without a teacher and without good friends, the practice becomes very difficult also. Okay, right? Because, before you're really good at the subject, just like you go to school, when you just start to learn something, you might be quite all right already. You need the teachers and teachers, those who can guide you at least when you have questions. And then also you have a companion, how to say? Companion. So you have the companions that always, we usually in our term is called good friends, with Kalyana Mitra, mean the companions that always can encourage you or can discuss something about the subject, So, and those are the important also for our practices. Now, when those are okay, and traditionally, and then you might be also more focused on learning the meditation, particularly the concentration part first. The concentration part I like to address, there were maybe 5 of them, according to a certain tradition. Not in the Pali, but I like to address that because I think it's also useful, helpful. I don't want to restrict only in the Pali system. So one of the techniques is called the mindfulness of breathing. Because why it's so popular, why it's so important? Because when you observe the breath, it helps you so much that when you have so many distracted thoughts, so if you observe the breath itself, it will stop your distracted thought much easier. Okay. In other words, the meditation on the breath is helpful when you have a lot of agitated mind. When your mind is so active, too active. So maybe the meditation on the breath is helping. The second method, it would be like the loving kindness method. So when you always feel unhappy or when your mind have a lot of hatred, so that you need to also somehow learn some loving kindness method so that you could really dissolve your mind, and change your mind from hatred to love. And the third kind of method is called, what we call this, the impureness, which is maybe not a requirement for your laypersons, but traditionally I still have to speak it. That is when you have a lustful mind. I usually think it's helpful not only just for monks, but nuns, but it's helpful for some lay people. Nowadays in our society also we have many problems because of what kind of how to say that one. Cheating, is it called cheating? Not only like leeches also, the word. They have a married couple, but because of they find attractive woman or they find attractive man. Adultery, yeah, thank you. The adultery problem. So, and then also nowadays the society changed so much. Even in old days it's true, but now even more. Some women, they even knew that the man is married, but they still even like to, like to cheat. Like to cheat and like to, Yeah, thank you. Because I hardly use those, so thank you. Flirt with them, I think you mean more than flirt, you know what I mean by that. So, so the man had to learn how to resist. The same thing as a woman, how to resist sometimes. So, but that, our eyes, our body, certainly they also easily to get, fall into the trap also. That's why this meditation called impureness is very important. Actually, it's a technique to teach you. Firstly, you need to learn how to formulate your mind. When say that a man met a beautiful woman and the man is married, so when the beautiful woman is going to flirt with him, how he should do? Of course, he's not going to think, wow, she's so beautiful, and then you become more obsessed, and you can relieve your mind from there, and that man will be get into trouble. So firstly, the man had to learn, for example, that to change the thought. For example, when such a woman talked to them, and the man had to think, oh, this is just my sister, my real sister, I have a beautiful real sister. So then you will not have this lustful mind over that person. Sometimes it doesn't work too, but anyway, if it doesn't work, then you have to look at the person. Even though how beautiful a person is, there might be at least a little spot there is not nice, right? And then your eye is not going to look at the nice part, but not the spot which is not nice. For example, okay, maybe he got a pimple or just one pimple only. Maybe that she got a pimple, something like that. So that's the way, it's called actually is a meditation tool that you learn to, meditate that in order to be, put away this lustful, when the lustful idea becomes so, so powerful to a person, or entranced to that person already. All right, and then the fourth method actually is for people some people are really kind of like stupid. I won't say stupid, it's a bad word, but kind of like dull, like very slow. According to Buddhist tradition, of course, that these kind of people, if they're very slow, what they have to do is that they got to always contemplate this dependent arising. You know what I mean, dependent arising? Paticca or the dependent co-arising. Anyway, it's something very complicated theory, but the person, you have to force that person to think in that way. So, in other words, to force a person to think, everything is depend on something that otherwise would not arise. Okay. Basically, so that's why it's said, why the simple system is that the person got to sit to do meditation, and you will sit there and you have to think like, why I will be reborn here? Why I be here is because my past life. Why I have a past life? Because I have another past life. If I have another past life, that means now I have this life, then I will next life. If I have a next life, then I have a next life. He got to think this kind of thing. Looks very stupid, but it's not. You find these people, when they think it that way, it will start to somehow that person will become much smarter. Okay, do you believe or not? You don't know. No problem, you can try later, okay? And the same thing, then why I have a past life, and now I have this life, and I may have a future life. So, but why? What it is? Oh, because in the past I made some action, and the action continues until now. And now my action is continue. That's why in my future I will have the action continue. So if this continues going on, it will be like a wheel and continue and no ending. Okay. If this wheel is going no ending, if now I'm not happy, and the next time I'll be not happy. So if now I'm not happy, maybe the past life also I was not happy. Okay, get it now? No? Does it sound too stupid? But anyway, this is also one of the techniques, maybe advice especially for people. I don't know whether they have met these people. I'm sure you all are here, not like that. But I did meet these people. You tell them many times, his idea is still, yeah, right? And these kind of people, they still can do meditate. According to tradition, then you need to ask them to meditate on this technique. To think about, actually, it means the dependent arising. But of course, just like I give a few examples already, like that. So they got to think that. Somehow they will be easily for that person to understand the meaning of the life. And they will see, oh, these things should be regarded in this way. They somehow open up their wisdom, I would say. All right. And the last one, actually, as for concentration, there are many concentration techniques, but I'd like to say this because for the time. And the last one is the people that they also could, because especially later on, in the Buddhism, we have this kind of statue. Even though from the Buddha's time, we don't have statue. Not until the Greek, the Indian learned this statue, sculpting from Greek. So, but then later on we have the statue. But however, that we still also always respect to the Buddha. So, and then you could just really like remembering the Buddha virtue. So that is also one. That's what we call the mindfulness, or what we call recollect of the Buddha. So you have to think about what is the powerful the Buddha is. Who he is, how powerful he is what kind of quality he has. Because it's very strangely, if you think of a person, maybe you always find there's a little thing that is not pure. But if your mind only just recollect the Buddha, the virtue, I'm not saying the recollect means chanting the name, mean really understanding, either through his life, either through his power, either through his Dhamma body, means his knowledge body. If you can recollect that way, you somehow feel you are also kind of like become close to the Buddha. Or you could say you are just be like a Buddha. Okay. And that kind of pureness itself, according to the tradition, that also will help you to because it's not only just you meditating on that, but it's also there's a power of the Buddha which is beyond speaking. 不可说不可说 beyond description. So and that will be helping you to be purify your mind, and that's certainly very powerful. And then that's how you lift up your faith of the teachings, and then you can keep on practicing Buddhism much easier. Okay. So in other words, traditionally, especially in Chinese tradition, they have 5 ways. But of course, concentration have much more than that. But I'm just trying to say this 5 first. For the people who might be thinking they are very sinful, especially, there are a lot of sinful, and they don't want this sinful thing comes to you, recollection of the Buddha is advised. For the people who are really easily get angry, the loving kindness meditation is highly advised. For the people who think too much, so always think too much, the mind is never stopped, and it's very hard to stop the mind. Slow down the mind, not stop, slow down the mind. So the mindfulness of breathing is one of the good techniques. And for the people who are really dull, slow in thinking, not very smart, responding very slow, contemplation of dependent arising is advised. And then for the people who are, when the last come to them, so to meditate on what we call the impureness is advised. Okay, those are actually been assigned as a concentration. The last I want to say, after that, you also could, if you can have the time to proceed, and then you need to practice what we call the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Based on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, someone will be able to be master in their meditation skill. That's why we have this, what we call, from the 4 energy, or what calls 4 striving force. Because you are not because you have a focus so well, but also you have able to, you're able to carry your mind to stop whatever not good, unwholesome thing, to stop unwholesome thing to arise. If they arise, you're able to stop it. If they haven't arisen, you will not allow them to arise. And then also able to carry your mind to allow the wholesome thing go on, and the wholesome thing, if not arisen, let it arise. That's what we call the 4 striving force. With the 4 striving force, and then you were able to have a kind of different kind of focused samadhi or concentration that with your own will. This is only happen in the vipassana, but not in the samadhi. The mastering of that means whatever you wish, you could do it. That's always the Buddha praised. The most powerful samadhi is always from the vipassana. Okay, there were 4 of them. Okay, and that also after that, then you will be easily to see the real teaching there. Every time when you do good in meditation or not, it's always with the company of what we call the 5 roots. That means the confidence, the energy, the mindfulness, the concentration, and the understanding. And with that kind of skill, if you develop, based on the subject of 4 foundational mindfulness, you always able to be, you can adjust your mind so easily. Just like you have hands, you have 5 fingers, but you know how to use the fingers so well. Okay, but you know very well when you need this 2 finger, when you need this 3 finger, when you need this 4 finger, when you need this 4 finger, something like that, to grab something. And when you need this finger to be more weighty. And then you proceed, you once become very powerful, and then it's not just a 5 force, 5 root, we call it as a 5 power, because it become kind of without figure there. It become natural. Okay, when it become natural, that you're able to actually use, because that, as I say, then you can carry your mind to meditate whenever you need to. For example, when you need to contemplate whether that is a Four Noble Truths, you can contemplate as a Four Noble Truths. That's what we call the discrimination of the Dharma. That, in other words, means you were able to meditate based on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, but you could able to meditate. That all always leads you to be liberation, away from the worry, away from the defilements, and lead you to Nibbana. That's what we call Bojjhanga, 就是菩提智嘛，就是七觉智啊。So why is called the Bojjhanga? Why is called the 觉知 in Chinese? It's because it's always leads you to be live away the defilements, and then leading you to the Nibbana. Okay, And then with these 7 bojjhanga, I mean the 7 enlightenment factors, you, just like the previous 5 roots, you were able to use the 7 bojjhanga, just like you have 7 fingers. Say that if you have 7 fingers. So you know when you should have those fingers to help you up. Up to the point that if you want to use the 7 will be there all the time. So you must know, because the first one, discrimination, is that you always can contemplate the Four Noble Truths. That's what we call the enlightenment factors of discrimination, 就是责法觉知. And then the mindfulness is the one always should be there. So, and that's why we call the mindfulness, the factor enlightenment of the mindfulness. And that has to be always there. But you always have to learn the other 3 balance you. The factors of discrimination, enlightenment factors of discrimination, and then the equanimity, and as well as this, the prasadi, what do you call translate? Tranquility, okay? Tranquility, the 3. They always go together. So you need to learn how to balance the 3, and they balance the other 3 enlightenment factor, that is the energy, concentration, joy. And if you can balance the both pair, that means 6 and 6, right? 3 as 1 pair, as 1, and then the another 3 as 1, that you have 2 pairs, and then the mindfulness is always there, and that's how you make almost like a triangle. And then the 7 factors will always be there. As I said, this then once to be there, with this helping of the 7 factors and enlightenment factors, based on the practice of 4 foundations of mindfulness, then the Nibbana, there's a hope of the Nibbana, basically, it may be best to say. This is, I guess, I will give you the simple structure of how Buddhism understands. When someone, they must develop the morality, and the morality actually is the main thing about morality, even though we have many rules, but actually the most main thing about morality is how you guard your senses, 6 senses. Okay, if everybody can guard their 6 senses, the rule is become, you know what I mean? I won't say insignificant, it's not that become the big part of it. And also the concentration, which might happen in other religions too, that will help you, of course, not just focus your mind, be more a very diligent person, a different person, but also maybe enhance you, have some supernatural power. But those are still cannot help in you to be enlightenment. Okay, but that's if anyone, there's no any other Buddhist tradition would deny that if those people who are looking for the enlightenment, they always have to base on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, to develop all what I just mentioned, what we call the 37 factors, 37 factors, 37, I think maybe sometimes we say 37 path. Yeah, 37 factors, and I don't know, it's so many, same translation, but 37 factors, and you must have all these kind of factors there. Lastly, all this time here is including, the last actually is the 7 factors of enlightenment. Okay. And the 7 factors of enlightenment have to do, of course, with you can able to carry your mind smoothly. Because the enlightenment factor mean that will be help you to be away, to be liberation, and to be cut away your defilements and liberation and towards Nibbana. That's why I call it enlightenment factors. So, and then of course, the moment that if you can perceive that, that means the moment that you have the right thought. What is the right thought? You have the right view, a right thought. The right view is a Four Noble Truth. The right thought is that impermanence, anicca, dukkha, anatta, or sunyata, and so forth. Those are the right thought. So that's, and so forth. So then you will have the 7 factors of enlightenment. Noble Eightfold Path. So anyway, so that's how at least you know the whole Buddhist structure, thinking about, lastly I want to say, according to Buddhism, if there's a next life, if somebody who are good in the morality, they will be reborn in a good place, either in a certain lower level of heavens, or even in the earth here, maybe have a better life. But if they have a concentration, they have more chance to be born in a higher level of the heavens, okay, based on how deep the concentration they develop. And then of course, if those people who not only just become reborn, they wonder one day they will not reborn again. I'm not going to discuss what does mean by not reborn again, which is in Buddhism is the highest, like a Buddha. So that you have to go through start from the 4 foundations of mindfulness up to the 7 factors of enlightenment. And then that you'll be cut off the defilements so that you will be reached to what we call the liberation path. Okay. All right. So that in other words mean the path for being humanity, the path for being a divinity, and then the path for being the Buddha or the sainthood or what we call the enlightenmenthood. Okay. All right. I will just stop the talk now. Thank you for listening.